Have you guys heard about the Laken Snelling case? It is actually going on. This college student actually got arrested. I believe it's like in the South. Don't quote me on that. I think it was either like Wyoming, something like that. Don't quote me on the state, but it's further down south than where I am. I know I'm in North Carolina on the East Coast, but, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong because I just moved here within the last year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But this girl's on the news because she ended up disposing of a child that she gave birth to, and I guess she put it in their dorm closet. She was back at school and her roommate had found it. And you guys, I am not sure if she knew she was pregnant or not, but she disposed of it in an unethical way. And it's definitely unforgivable, the situation, but I do have a few things to say about it, because when it comes to this, would this have happened if Roe v. Wade wasn't struck down and gone to the States, And I have to say something when it comes to this situation. I actually grew up in Wisconsin, and every state's different, but I'm telling you from my experience, I grew up in a state, I think that maybe kind of like politically similar to her. I'm not really sure about that answer, but kind of similar politically growing up. And I want to say that they voted on what we learned and versus what we didn't. So, for example, we had less education when it comes to abortions. Thank goodness I never had to have an abortion ever, because in Wisconsin, I couldn't even tell you when I was in college where to get an abortion, how much it costed, whatever. I would not know that answer. Thank goodness I never had to go through that, but they really lack education in certain states. So I think we need to really make sure we're educating these people, especially young ones, like young students, younger people, how to get resources, what the resources are in their state. They should be educated on that. They should also be educated on the abortion laws, everything to stay safe, right? Come on, they really don't. And everything's constantly changing is also another problem. But also, Planned Parenthood is not the devil. They also offer a majority of feminine care resources. Like, you can go in there for appointments, birth control. There's a lot of things you can go in. Pap smears. It is a good place to go. And I think it gets a really bad name because that's what people associate it with, is like abortions. There's more to the clinic than abortions. Like, there's a lot of them that don't even offer abortions. So just saying that, like, they're not always for that. And there's other resources too. And it's more affordable than a lot of other places. So keep that in mind, you guys. Just telling you. But as someone who was not educated, I'm just trying to think back to the time that I was a senior in college. I would not have known anything. I would have been scared. But maybe she wasn't even aware that she was pregnant. And I also know in her state that they said they have like safe boxes, I guess, like in the local area, so that doesn't happen. But I'm saying lack of education can be a thing too, or specifically this kind of education. Even if you're educated, you can still make mistakes like this because you're not really sure how to handle it properly, and you're so scared. And I just know that she probably was like concerned and not sure what to do. But every state is different, which is also difficult as someone in this country because, like, for example, there's some states that don't allow it at all, or basic ban, and then there's some that are completely allowing it. But it's very difficult. It feels like every state is like a different country nowadays when it comes to political rules, and I don't really like it. So, although it's beneficial when you move out of a state you don't like me, like I did not like Wisconsin's rules. So you want to make sure that, well, I also think that it's very possible that she was just in a happy relationship and she didn't even know that she was pregnant. It's very possible. Or maybe they did, but I'm not really sure. I would assume it's probably the first option because that seems like the more likely reason, but I don't know these people. Like, maybe it was more unethical. But what are your guys' takes on it? Because I could literally talk about this forever, because I think that when you lack these resources, especially with these younger kids, you're going to have more issues. You're going to have more deaths with the children and the mothers. Both, not one. You're also going to be giving people more chances to get fake abortions and get sick and hurt and die. So, and the more strict these rules are, they're going to have to go to attorneys before they can even help you. So you and the baby can literally die before you even get the care that you need nowadays, because those strict rules, which are really awful, god awful. But I'm just saying, as someone who, I'm honestly terrified to have kids in the United States. Terrified. After that situation happened, so I'm glad I live in a state where, like, it's a little less strict versus, like, Wisconsin. Yeah, there was some god awful stuff when Roe was overturned. I hated the rules there when they overturned it. It was like back to like the 1920s. Don't quote me on that number, but like it was like really, really old stuff. Anyway, my sister literally almost died from IVF. So that is why I will never trust the system right now. And I do think it's necessary to have abortions accessible because it can save lives. And also, did you know that a lot of like domestic violence people end up getting people pregnant on purpose? So you can literally save someone's life by getting an abortion. You know that's very often where that happens. They want to trap them. I think that's a good thing to think about because it can really save people's lives long term. Literally. If you're in the wrong relationship, it can kill you. Just saying. But I also think that even though she's like 21 and in college, we should still give her some grace. Even though I definitely think she was in the wrong. I would not have handled it that way. Although I couldn't say that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what I would have done. I wouldn't have done that. But maybe I would have just gone to like the hospital or something, or the clinic. Because I would have been terrified. Definitely terrified. I just don't know what I would have done. But I would have not put in the closet. However, that's scary. And they're going to have to do an autopsy on it to make sure that, like, it wasn't alive when she put it in the closet, because then she would have more charges. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Anyway, that was, like, who was the other girl who did that in recent years? It was 2017. Who was she? You know what I'm talking about. I just looked up her case yesterday. But I guess that hers was dropped to, like, 3 years probation. But she was also younger than her. I think she was underage, wasn't she? Or close. Like, she was very young. But 21 is still young, and you can make a dumb decision in the moment, adrenaline. So I feel bad for this girl. And would this have even happened if Roe was around? Just saying. I think that's something we all have to think about when it comes to this, because it can really save people's lives. But also, the rules are so strict, and there's some, you can't even get it basically, but some of the rules are so strict where you wouldn't even be able to tell that you were pregnant before you could even go get an abortion. And there's a lot of people, like myself, who have, like, irregular cycles. There was no way that I'd be able to even tell I was pregnant sometimes without even taking, like, a pregnancy test before I would even know. Like, my cycle's different than, like, the standard ones. I don't think the rules account for that. You know what I mean? I think, or, like, when I was in high school, I literally didn't even get my period for, like, months. Months. That's not healthy. I'm just saying. So maybe I'll have infertility issues. I don't know. But I'm saying, like, I was very active, and I still have, like, some issues with it, but not to that extent. I'm just saying, as someone who has gone through it and seen a lot of things, I think that is something to keep in mind when it comes to developing rules. That's why medical teams made the abortion rules with Roe specifically for that. And also, it was to keep women's secrecy when it came to their medical information. It was a package bill. It wasn't just about abortions. You should actually look into that, you guys, because it's not just about abortions. Like, I think you guys know, well, if you don't know, when it comes to anything like that, they always package it with other things. I think it's kind of interesting, actually. So it's not just about one thing, right? That's very rare. So they normally package it. But it was also about medical records. But wasn't it? You guys can tell me down below. I believe my sister told me about this. She's an attorney, and she studied this a million times. And of course, and she also has every right to do it because it has affected her the most. She literally almost died from IVF. Thank goodness she did not live in a state like Wisconsin, or else she'd maybe have died. So that's scary. And I love my sister, and I would literally go to war for her. But I think that people need to really understand it more. And I also think it's interesting that a lot of people in the medical field are not even, like, voting pro-choice. Or some, even the smartest people. I don't get it. I literally don't get it, because there's a lot of weird situations that come up. And even if you don't believe in it or whatever reason, or don't think it's ethical or against your beliefs, there's a good enough reason, I guarantee, that will sit with you and be like, oh, they deserve to live.